Today is all about containers, container gardens. Now they've been beat up, so I went through our containers downstairs in the lower part of the gardens, and I pulled all the pansies. I pulled the kales, are bolting like crazy, pulled the lettuces. Things are not liking, some things don't like the heat. Some things love the spring, the cold, bright days, the cold nights, the light frost. They love that. That's pansies, violas, kales, oh yeah, you can go through and name them, but they hate everything about, when it gets above 85 degrees, they're going, I'm out, that's it. And you can't water them enough. They actually evaporate faster than their roots. They perspire faster than their roots can take up. So it doesn't matter how much you water them. You're going to come home one day from the club and it's going to be boom, right down on it. It's just going to be dead. So don't try. It's just our season is way too long for growing stuff. So we have a definite early spring to spring season when there's this from March through May. It's unbelievable. Glorious flowers from everyone else is socked in snow in the Midwest. We're blooming like crazy. We can still get some cold, but some plants like that. Then we get summer now, June through really mid-November. When do our plants collapse?
It depends how early we get that first hard frost. But most of our stuff goes easily through October, first part of November.
So that'll be glorious. And then we get it'll take light frost. Our first hard frost, I think, was the second week in November last year. So who knows? The first frost date for this area, the 100-year average, is October 27th, I believe. Now, that's the funny thing about averages. 100 years of data, 50 of those years is in the middle of October. The other 50 of those years, it was in the middle of November. It's never been actually October 27th. But that's a 100-year average. So you got to kind of read the weather and kind of float with it. That'll be important if you're growing tomatoes. I looked and we have our first tomato. It's bright, slight red. I know. I actually had to put bird netting around our container. I grew a pot with tomatoes up this tall. It's magnificent. It's got a colored, real pretty tomato cage. But we've got Vincent, our black lab.
He loves tomatoes.
He loves tomatoes.
He loves green tomatoes.
He'll pick them off, every one of them. So I had to put bird netting around it to keep the dog off of our tomatoes. So sometimes you got to get creative, but you can grow a lot of things in containers. But now we have a lot of holes, so I went through and I started picking some plants for our container gardens mainly. We got a couple holes in the raised beds, but we're going to fill in. We're clearing out the things that look a little rough. Just pull them right out, and we're going to plug some summer loving things that will just love the heat from now through November 1 or so. So we've got a long season here. So you want to go down to plants and just go. I went sun. I kind of went sun for us because ours are mainly sun.
Right.
But then I see you brought some shade things.
Brought a few shade things because everybody has a patio or a deck where they don't get a lot of sun, so it's kind of fun to throw some shade things in there. So this is lavender lace, or Mexican heather is the other name for it. This, if you have a lot of rabbit javelina, this is a great plant to put out because they leave it alone. And I don't know why, because it looks like one of those plants they would like to eat. But I have one guy that comes in, this is all he buys every year because this is the only plant the javelina won't eat. Just a nice little purple blooms all season.
Hardier than Bacopa, hardier than Alyssum, some of the other smaller leaf, but gets that same breadth to it. But the animals don't eat it. This is one that loves the sun too.
It does like
so
the sun.
It's going
to do well planted with other things, not always just by itself.
You mean like this?
So vinca is crazy. We were in Phoenix Wednesday, Norterra Shopping Center, and they had big pots with vinca in it. And you know how hot it's been in Phoenix. So
it's like 118 when we were walking around the mall. Yeah. What were we thinking? We were melting, right? Dashing from air-conditioned shop to air-conditioned shop.
And their vinca looked terrific. And the great thing about vinca is it kind of self-deadheads. So if you're not a person that wants to go out there every morning and pick off flowers, vinca is great because those flowers kind of dry on there, and then all you have to do is kind of wipe it a little bit, and it knocks the dead blossoms off.
Now, a little thing about this, if you've grown this in California, maybe the South, The older varieties of vinca would melt to get some diseases and the center would die out. This is Cora vinca. They've bred that disease issues out of it. So this one stands up without, stays a little more compact, blooms a little better, and doesn't get diseases like its older cousin used to get.
And it doesn't mind going a little bit on the dry side.
Yeah.
So for
Looks
next
delicate,
spot, yeah.
but this is hardy. This is one of the, my stuff died in my hanging baskets. This is, you can't kill this. As long as it's hot enough. This does not like spring. We don't have this in the spring. Only when it's summer, when it's above 80, maybe we'll start carrying this. Yeah.
So I have been cut in a couple of different spots, and it's sort of half sun, sort of semi. And I get flowers every spring. They're little purple ones.
Okay.
But they don't last more than a month.
Oh, there's a different kind of
different
vinca. Yeah, that's the perennial vinca, or periwinkle, or there's myrtle. There's a lot of names for it. That they aren't really related. This is annual vinca, so it doesn't come back. It's just here through November, then it does this all the time. And that's the beauty of annuals as opposed to perennials. So his vinca, perennial vinca, this is the negative with perennials. Yes, they come back every year, but their bloom cycle, about 6 weeks at most. And then they're just green. That's why you have to plant a lot of perennials and have them staged. There's spring bloomers, summer bloomers, fall bloomers. There's always a rotation. Whereas annuals, they put all of their energy into making seed this year. They want to come back by seed. They'll never come back by the root. And so they focus on flowers, flowers, flowers. That's why they're showier and longer
It's
blooming.
white too.
Yeah.
Actually, it comes in a couple different colors. It also comes in so this is more of the upright vinca. They also make one called Mediterranean, or I forget the other name, but it trails. It actually spreads out in trails.
Trailing vinca.
Trailing vinca. That's it.
Will that reseed itself?
It will not. No. But
No, you want to come back every year to Waters Garden Center and buy an hour.
Commercials are good.
So this one, what's the name of this one? This is a brand new plant for us this year.
I can't even pronounce it.
Okay.
Pelotus exalis. Joey. Just call it Joey. I planted one in that front
You
container.
did, and
Loves
it's
it.
doing very well.
Yeah.
So it's a new plant for us this year. I believe it comes from Australia or New Zealand, one of those places. But really, really cool. We have tried it.
Full
we
sun.
have it in a full sun spot.
Yep.
And it's doing excellent.
Yeah. I call it a Dr. Seuss plant. You just kind of want to touch it or something. It looks kind of neat. I put it in the front. I don't know. It's kind of different. This is it. This is as mature as it gets right here. So
It's filling out, but it's not really getting much.
Pelotus, Joey Pelotus. It does not have it's so new it doesn't even have a common name, and that's probably New Zealander Latin for Dr. Seuss plant.
There you go.
So yeah, we don't know yet. I've got mine in a pot. I do have rabbits. I have the electric fence for the javelina. So,
We don't have experience with that yet. You should try
we
it.
need a test victim to tell us.
On the Dinka too, how are they with rabbit syndrome?
Actually very resistant to the animals.
You'll notice we never say proof.
I know.
Only resistant because not all the herds or animals read the same list. Some of them, both generally they don't, but sometimes they go, "This is the greatest thing ever." And generally, it's resistant. Butterfly magnet.
Or pinta,
Yeah.
great, like Ken said, it attracts that butterfly. Butterflies love it. It's got these nice little landing pad areas for it. This is another one that's very heat tolerant. This
Yeah,
is,
crazy.
They have that down in Phoenix too, in those containers. So if you have a hot spot or a hot container, pick plants that are going to be okay with that. And definitely pintas fall into that.
This is one that's on every pollinator list. If you're into monarchs and swallowtails and the hummingbird butterfly or sphinx moth, some of those guys, it's irresistible. Hummingbirds, irresistible. But it's one of those, you'll never find it in spring. It loves the heat, needs to be in the heat. So this is one we're going to put in our gardens where I have a hole, just put it in there. And we're like a butterfly and hummingbird magnet. So we have a lot of color and stuff. We plant for them. We like them. So I look at butterflies as kind of the fairies of the garden, just magic. Anyway. Penta, P-E-N-T-A. Pentas, Pentas. Comes in several colors.
The whites and lavenders, the reds.
How big does it get?
This is a little bit bigger than
bit
this,
taller.
not much. This is it. I
Those
brought the
are
mature
good.
varieties, and we've got all the 4-inch smaller sizes too. So,
Does it draw?
does it draw bees? I don't know. You want butterflies though. This one draws bees.
Yeah.
This is a pollinator for honeybees.
So if you have problems with getting pollination in your garden, planting things that are blue are going to bring in those pollinators. So if you're not getting good production on your squash or your tomatoes, plant something with some blue or purple, and that's going to draw in those pollinators.
This one is the most traditional for Southwest. This is sun-loving, drought-hardy, just tough as nails. Anytime you see the word salvia or sage, you know you got a good plant for here. Because it's going to like the bright sun, it's going to like our soil or water, it's going to do well.
And usually animal resistant.
Yeah, almost always animals are going to eat it. It's got kind of a sagey, that goes for all herbs.
True.
Any herb, animals aren't going to eat. So this is Victoria Blue, it's most common. But this one I planted, this is new this year, this is called Black and Bloom. They're related. Look at the difference. Isn't that pretty? I mean, look at that.
We have this one in the yard. We were sitting out front yesterday, and the hummingbirds were just
All over it.
all over
Kind of
this.
looking at us, taking a snack, looking at us, taking a snack. It was fun. Hummingbirds. So anyway, I don't get excited by plants. I mean, this is kind of like, yeah, I got to sell another one. I still got a kid in college, so yeah, buy some of these. But this one gets me excited. It's not quite as,
Yeah.
it is. It's not quite as heavy a bloomer, but the flowers are brighter. So Black and Bloom, salvia.
Yep.
So they're both related.
Those salvias. And
These two are annuals. We do have perennial varieties, but you don't get that color with the perennials. You only get that color with the annuals. So
And full sun on those?
full sun, yeah, blistering hot. Want to go over this blistering hot bloomer?
Well, that's
Firecracker?
kufia, firecracker kufia. I don't think we've ever planted that in our yard.
We're going
have
to.
we?
This one's going home with us. Yeah, I want this in the front of one of our pots.
I have good reports from customers who love this plant, and actually, like, is a kufia in ya? Is it in ya? We haven't planted it ourselves, but I'm excited to try it. But there again, very much got those tubular flowers, which the hummingbirds just love, and that nice color. It's hard to find that nice, pretty orange color. It's easy to find pinks and lavenders, but to find the oranges and stuff, it's a little bit more of a challenge.
You need
It's
to put
pretty
this with something like that. Different kinds of foliage, but similar color palette. That could be pretty. Sorry about that.
The Gerber daisies?
Yeah.
I have a love-hate relationship with Gerbers. I love them. I absolutely love them. But you know, everybody has one plant that can't grow. That's with Gerbers. I try them every year because I'm like, oh, they're so pretty. I love them. But they don't like me.
The secret with these, I think, is eastern exposure and then deadheading. When that gets them blooming, pinch it off. It'll set another flower coming out. And
Where do you
in our,
pinch it at?
just anywhere on the base, it doesn't matter. Just pinch it off. So it doesn't focus on putting seed. It focuses on reblooming and flowering again. So this one did come back. This is an annual variety. We also have the perennial variety as well. Our perennial variety has bloomed twice now, 2 flushes of growth in the back bed.
Shade bed.
The one in the front landscape, the raised bed, or top bed, came back 2 years in a row. Javelina didn't bother it. It was good. Then finally we had a real cold winter and it got soggy and it died. So, but you can come to Waters Garden Center, bud. We got multiple colors of daisies. You want to go over, like you mentioned, herbs like lavenders, or just go that southwestern mix a bit?
Yeah, so, you know, sometimes you just have those pots that you know are just hot and dry. You know, like we discussed before, you gotta find those plants that are gonna be okay with that. And if you want to talk perennials, lavender and rosemary, both of them do so well in containers, and they love those hot, dry spots in your yard. So this is a great one, plus the fragrance. I love to put these out front where we kind of sit, because you get the fragrance from them.
That one, that's
Yeah.
This does.
Perennial.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
perennial. It
perennial.
comes back every year.
So the one Ken put with it, this is Angelonia. It's a nice little sedum. Believe it or not, This goes through the winter and actually
Evergreen.
stays green in the winter. I love this plant.
Yeah.
We have a succulent bowl that has this and a few other things in it, and we kind of ignored it this winter. Oh, it's beautiful.
We're abusive to our flowers. I mean, we work. We have multiple companies we're running. We got kids. We got a kid getting married in November. Yay! In Austin, Texas. How do we pull that one off during before Christmas trees come? Anyway, it'd be fun.
But this would be a good example of planting like plants together. So you have a plant that likes to be on the dry side, likes the heat, we'll match it with another plant that's similar. You wouldn't want to put a lavender with a Gabera daisy. Two completely different needs. So when you're picking out your plants, pick out ones that are going to go in the container that have the same wants. And if you're not sure, ask somebody. That's why we're here. We'd love to help with that. You could do that and a vinca even together. Or even your Joey.
There we go.
Here, hold this too.
Yeah.
So yeah, picking plants that want to go together is hugely important. That's like in the shade one. So this is a fern. It's a perennial fern, believe it or not. Definitely will come back next year. The perennial geranium.
It's pretty.
Very pretty together. Gives it some nice color. Something dark in there.
That's pretty.
Isn't that pretty? How the different colors offset each other. And if I wanted to get really crazy, I love this color. Throwing that in there.
What color is it? And for the men in the room, what color is that?
Chartreuse.
Chartreuse. I would have just said yellow.
Lime green.
That's where God only gave me 7 crayons and she's got all 64.
But it's nice to use different colors in a container because they offset each other. They make each other stand out. Whereas if you go too much one color, if you just had all the dark, it's not really going to stand out. Using a contrasting color really makes a difference.
Plus, these are shade plants. These are all shade plants, and so sometimes you get too dark in the shade. It's nice to have light colors, bright colors. They pop a little bit better. Bright flowers pop a little better.
Yeah, so only 2 of these are actually perennial, the fern and the geranium.
Yeah.
But that's okay to mix perennials with annuals. I mean, I do that all the time
constantly.
in my pots. And it works very, very well. So you can mix different things together.
When you're planting too, let's say you're going to dress up a raised bed or a container garden and you've only got a little hole. A lot of folks will read the tag going, space it every 18 inches. You ignore those rules when you're planting containers. The biggest mistake I find new folks getting into, mainly younger folks, are just starting out. They space them too far apart. And it takes all season before they're actually grown together and they look mature. Then we get our frost, so they go dormant, and they don't ever have a really glorious looking container. Really what you want to do is touch foliage to foliage. That's your spacing. So ignore the rules. And I like the survival of the fittest. Just let Darwin take over and let's see which one. Let them choke out, fight for light and water and food, and see which. Usually they'll have one that dominates. Now I just had to take our lemon balm in our herb garden. I had to cut it back because it was taking over. The bay leaves, the lavenders, the thyme were all being choked out by this lemon balm, which is my new favorite herb this year.
It's lemon verbena.
Oh, lemon balm.
It's a lemon balm? It's huge, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's going in tea, it's going in salsas, it has a zesty herb. It's good.
He cooks all these meals and I'm like, what is this herb? Oh, that's the lemon balm.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to mix your perennials and
Foliage.
your pack things in. Ken is right. You know, a lot of people.
Oh, wait, hold on, guys. What'd you say?
I said Ken might be right.
Yeah. You go southwestern stuff?
Yeah, go ahead.
Folks that have a...
I don't touch cactus because they
This one
jump
doesn't
on
want to bite you. So, some of you have a courtyard, Spanish style, Santa Fe, and some of these you just don't want that much color. Or maybe you're going to the Panama Canal and you're going to be gone for 6 weeks. You want things like this. This is a cactus, but I didn't bring the other prickly pear. This is Rita prickly pear. It's a dwarf, baby Rita. It's a dwarf prickly pear, so it doesn't get this big, giant pads that will come out and grab you. I would never put cholla close to where I'm even going to be, or jumping cactus, because it does want to come out and get you. This guy's cute. It's little. You almost want to hug it.
Go ahead.
These two, the prettiest desert spoon I've ever seen. This kind of looks like a yucca, but it has a little fish hook to it, which makes it really interesting. It's great in courtyards and pots. The prettiest one I've seen was in Sedona, in a big earth tone pot. It had filled in. It was literally about 3 foot around. Beautiful ball in a pot, and I'm sure it had been there for years and years, just sitting there in a commercial setting. They wanted something really tough. They didn't have to fuss over it. And so this was by itself and just looked good. It does get a little tiny flower on it, perennial, but this screams, I'm from the Southwest and I love it here. And you should too. It was in a pretty big pot, probably like a 18 to 24 inch size. This will get some girth. We'll get some size. This is cute and little, but it's going to get this tall and just solid, like a solid globe. This one, bright sun, hot sun. I mean, talk dirty to it, kick, just kind of abuse it. It likes that. You put it out there and neglect it. Go on that RV trip, come back. It will still be alive. The house sitter cannot kill it. So it's one of those kinds of plants. It's a good one. We're famous in the mountains of Arizona for our agaves. There's some growing right now. It's got a flower stalk that grows almost by the day. It's going to get up to about 10, 12 feet tall, this great big white flower. That's native, grows wild here. Probably too large for a pot or two, maybe not, for a few years it'd be good. This is a cute little guy. This is also an agave, a dwarf. And so it's got the same kind of curly, this is not a, it is a yucca. Never mind, we're famous for our yuccas. There's a red yucca blooming about this tall with red flowers coming in. This is related to that. Dang it. She's always right.
There is a really neat agave, the artichoke agave.
Yeah.
I should have brought that over, but that's really pretty in a pot. Gorgeous.
Anyway, you can have Southwest too. It can be in the courtyard, it can be in the raised bed. You can place them, you just have to make sure you get the right variety where they don't impede or want to come out and grab you. So there's a place for them though.
And then the other thing I wanted to kind of mention is don't be afraid to use shrubs in some of your pots as well. One of my favorites to use is barberry. This is an orange rocket barberry. I love the color on this. It's hard to find this color. There again, you're not going to find it in your annuals or that type of thing. But a nice perennial little shrub. It would easily grow in a container. You can put things around it, your vinca, your cupia.
This looks kind of neat.
There's a lot of different things you can put around it. So your shrub is always going to be there, and then you just change out seasonally. You can change out your plants. So when you get tired, when it's cold, and the cupia is not growing, no, that's when you put your pansies in or your kale in. So it's
We use
nice.
a lot of perennials and
As a
shrubs
base.
as the anchor, and then we accessorize with the annuals. Kind of what we do. So we're not replacing all of our containers. I mean, in our front yard alone, I think we have 36 pots. There's another 36 in the backyard. So we have a lot of containers. In fact, why don't I do this? I was going to take some photos and send it to you all. I'm going to do some gardening tomorrow probably. I'll take some pictures when I'm all done, and they'll be our gardens. They'll be just they'll be just accessorized, and I'll email that to you if that's of interest. I'll probably set up a Pinterest board and you'll have a link. You can see all the photos right there. So if you give me your email address, I didn't think there'd be this many people. if there's too many of you want, it's right on the back. So there's a pin on there, but I'll get that out to you probably next week. It'll take me a couple days. Again, Sunday I'm planning on gardening, and then I'll take some photos as we go, and then I'll put Ken on sending that out, creating the board for us. Should be pretty easy. Okay.
And just one thing, because I saw this little frog here.
I love frogs.
So we do a lot of little quirky things
We do.
in our pots. So we'll put a little art piece in there. We have several little frogs and
My favorite at our house is we had a St. Francis. It's not sacrilege. It's just he broke his head came off, and so I went, I can't sell this now. What am I gonna do? It's like this $300 statue I can't sell. So I took his head home and I stuck it on a stake, and his head is there floating. It turns in the wind. It's the coolest thing ever. It looks really neat, but you can get creative with things, and everyone comments on that. We've got gargoyles, little frogs,
tiki heads.
Oh, all kinds of stuff.
Tons of weird
We'll take
things.
some photos and send it, but ours are container gardens with artistic flair. I went dumpster diving with my grandmother as a kid. She was a Depression era gal, and she'd go, "Ken, you want to go dumpster diving?" I go, "Yeah, score, let's go, Grandma." Anyway,
So fairy gardens too, I'll just ignore that.
too much TMI.
So these are made, you can actually put these outside. I don't know if I do it in full hot sun, they might fade a little bit. I'm not sure everything's made for Arizona sun, but if it fades, who cares? But this actually has a little solar panel on it. So at night, the inside's gonna light up. Wouldn't that be really cute by a front door? Have that in there, and of course there's a bunch of other little fairy pieces, girls and animals and things you can put in there with it
I
too.
like the fairy garden. The fairy garden stuff is inside the store. It's miniature gardens. So you can accessorize a little tiny thing. I just brought one because it was solar. We're talking outdoor
Yeah,
containers.
it's just something to kind of give those little containers an extra oomph. You kind of go, oh, how cute, I love it.
Now I brought this one, and I've never done this one before, but
Ah,
I brought air plants. You know what air plants are? It's like a plant without roots. And I thought, okay, that's it. That's neat. But how do I use this outdoors? And I thought I just brought this in, going put some in a glass globe, put that in the pot, and then put things like this around it. You could actually have a neat, interesting. You can get creative. And I haven't done this yet, but I'm thinking by that front door or entrance. This would be a conversation piece. If someone saw this going, "Oh, I don't know if it would live yet, but I'm going
but
to try
gardening
it."
is experimenting.
Yeah, it's kind of, you can have fun with gardening. And these guys, all you do is you soak them in water once a week, and they plump up and they
Maybe
go.
outside more. I don't know.
I'll put a dripping
Be fun to
in
try.
there or something. Okay, we have debates on and on with each other. How are we doing on time?
I don't know.
Oh,
Oh,
10,
the
we're okay.
sumac. Come
Yeah,
on, sumac.
I brought this one because this is a native sumac. There's actually there's several native sumacs that grow here. This one is a dwarf. Most sumacs get way too big. They're like mini trees. They're kind of like Japanese maple size. They're big. This one only gets up about this tall. It's called tiger eye sumac. If you've got a hot spot out by, let's say, the garage, a courtyard wall, a west exposure where it's just everything vaporizes, you could put this in and it looks lacy and light, but this is tough. We actually have this in the ground as well. It's actually made to be landscaped with. I brought it as an idea for containers because it doesn't get too large, but we put this in the front by our pond. You'll see this at the front edge because usually pond water is very, very dark. We like our pond water even not clear. I don't want cool water. I want dark. I want it to look mysterious, like a monster's going to come up and bite your face off. I want it dark and mysterious.
Vincent likes the pond too.
Yeah, it's really only about 2 feet deep.
Oh,
But we put this on the front because I knew the pond was going to be that way, and it's a real bright light color against the dark foliage, but it doesn't get so big that it shades or shadows that pond. So it's really done well, and it grows, it spreads, it just grows by itself. So eventually it's going to fill up the pot and take over, and nothing else will be able to compete.
By
And then
when
it
you're
will try
tired
to,
of it, you move it to
Yeah.
a place in the yard and you put something else in the house.
yeah,
How wide does that get?
unlimited. How wide does it get? It keeps going until
It's a little invasive.
in a nuclear holocaust, only ants and this plant would be left, sumacs. So Russian sage, that's another one that would be left. So anyway, it's just some ideas for those areas. Maybe you've struggled. Sometimes you need to start with, in a new area, how many new people do we have here? Brand new. Oh, half the group. Excellent. Sometimes you want to start with, I can't kill this. Then you expand on to, I wonder if I can keep this alive here. And that's where we experiment. We have a lot of experiment gardens where we're going, let's test it. I think gardeners naturally do that. But if you're from the Midwest or the South or California or Northwest, you're just new to here, you want to start back at square one and then test it from there. So just words of wisdom. Don't get discouraged. Just start with things that are tougher that you just can't kill. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, we've covered a lot of plants.
I really want to cover how to water, care, and some disease. There's some things showing up
Yeah.
with customers coming in. I think we should cover some of that.
Sure. You want to take that on your own?
No,
You don't need
I love being up here with you. Yeah. We don't get to spend much time together. What, this? This? No, I brought this. This, what I did do, I do have our backyard, we've got the classic mountain home. It's 2 stories, it's 2.5 stories. And you walk straight into the front level, and then it's dug out. So you've got this dug out basement, got to walk downstairs, get the backyard, and we're on a slope like this with fabulous vistas. I mean, it's beautiful. We're overlooking the dells, but it can be difficult on the back patio if there's a lot of hardware. It just doesn't feel garden-esque. It's not the secret garden. It's like decks and walls, 2.5 stories up. So I'm always trying to soften up those walls. It feels sterile. And so some of the walls don't even have windows. It's just 2.5 stories from here all the way up, stucco and siding. And I want to soften that. So what we did, we took a big pot. It's already standing this tall. We put a trellis in it. I didn't put this particular trellis, but just put a trellis. This could go this way or this one, whatever. Stick it in there, and then I put a vine up, and where the deck posts are, that 4x4 posts coming down that are at least 12 feet tall, I grew a vine. And so what I'm hoping for is it grows, right now the vine is up to about here. I'm hoping to grow it past that. I'm hoping to actually put a stringer on here and take it right up to the deck rail where I can grow it to the 2nd story deck. That would be impressive. I don't know if I can fertilize it enough to do that. It's going to take a lot of food to get a plant to grow that much, but I think it's doing it. I brought this one. It would be a good way to play with it. This is trumpet vine. It could grow in a pot, a large pot, or it goes in the ground, fencing, whatever. Sometimes if you want height without all the girth, the width, you got to go vines. And that's what we wanted on our patio. We wanted tremendous height. But I don't want it to take over and impede our entertainment area, the patios, the decks, and the spas, and the grills. We want it to be narrow. So vines are a great way to do that. You can do that with clematis, honeysuckle. Akebia is a great one. Yeah, that's a really aggressive grow. We do that. We use that one a lot. We did ours with hops. I like to brew beer. I'm not going to harvest the hops. It's got the prettiest little flower, but it's a very aggressive grower, and it's a new plant for us, new experiment.
Something to try.
Try it, yeah. So
Trim out the back too.
this one, what we do, like we've got an ivy growing on something like this, an English ivy, underneath the deck where it's really shaded. That corner that's just stark, where just nothing but cobwebs grow. But we put a pot with an ornament with a trellis. We grow English ivy on it. What I do is I trim it back every about March, back to that structure, whatever your trellis, or we're using a piece of like an English art piece. And we trim it right back to that, fertilize it, and it keeps it under control. So don't let things grow beyond what you want it, keep it maintained. This one you would prune probably in February or March, and then you can't kill this. It's a native, drought hardy, zero escape. Really?
I had 3.
We're gonna talk.
I was in the backyard. The one in the middle died on me, but the other 2 are just thriving. I put a new trellis on it, and they filled them with trellis.
So she had one of these. She had 3 of them, and one died. Now in my world, I just call that gardening, especially in northern Arizona. It's just you're going to have some losses. You're not going to be 100% here. Don't beat yourself up. And some of you gardeners need to get over yourself. Let me get on my soapbox for a minute. Some plants deserve to be dug up and reset. They need to be killed. You need to change. God allowed man to create chainsaws to thin out ugly plants. Okay, if you bought that house and sitting in the market for a year and the owners weren't taking care of it, Russian sage, it's not meant to live forever. It looks like a rock star for about 4 or 5 years, then it starts to die out, it gets mangy, it starts to run. You need to dig that thing out. I know it's still alive, but it's ugly. Dig it up and put a fresh new one. Did I bring a Russian sage? I didn't bring a Russian sage. What am I thinking?
I don't know.
They make a new dwarf Russian sage called lacy blue. There's 2 or 3 varieties down there. They stay shorter. They're easier to take care of. They won't live any longer, but they just don't run as much. They don't seed as much. And they only get knee high instead of this usual, hip high. So maybe replacing some fun, new, different things, but don't live with ugly plants. We should create a bumper sticker. You're part of our garden club. Here, you want to put this on your car? Don't live with ugly plants.
Well, that's
Done with my soapbox.
You can get climbed in.
This would love a hot wall.
It likes the heat.
So,
spread wall.
to compensate for the one dead plant, she's got two of them that have now taken over the rest of that spot and just done really well.
You wouldn't need trellises, so.
No, you can actually use this as ground cover. Like Yavapai College has quite a bit of it as erosion control. They took the stakes off and laid it down, and now it's running across the ground. It still has that orange flower to it. Doesn't attach by itself, not like a Virginia creeper or some of those things. Yeah, that's where if you get into specialty things, come talk to us. We probably look at, I don't know, 10 different devices, from iPads to Samsungs to every kind of phone you can think of. Pictures are great because you can zoom, especially with technology, because you can zoom in. We do actually like old school, like on paper. You can actually print it out because we can draw on that and show you, oh, put this, cut here, do this. But take a picture, bring it in. Let's look at it. We'll look at shadowing, what else is doing well, because that means we can go companion plants. If lilacs growing there, well, so will Rose of Sharon, so will crepe myrtle, so will we can now companion plant things for you. But you don't have to do it alone, especially when half the group is new. You're gonna make some mistakes. Our goal with this series of classes is just to help you make mistakes in the right direction. So you're never going backwards. Gardening, you're always going to make mistakes, but at least we're going forward and learning. And if you make enough mistakes, all of a sudden you're the expert in the neighborhood, and your yard is just, everyone's talking about it. And that's when you start sharing. That's the joy of gardening. That's truly what it is. But don't beat yourself up when you have a loss. Just come back and buy another one. We'll be here for you. But help, ask questions. We're here to help. So watering.
Yes.
The number one thing we use here at the garden center is cloud cover. This is magic in a bottle. What this is in the industry we call this an anti-desiccant. We buy this in gallons. The entire nursery is hosed down with this. It's a clear coat that you spritz the foliage with. So you sprint the foliage on this. It's starting to be wilty. It's just some plants are real talkative. They're going, I'm so hot, I'm so dry. Spritz those things with cloud cover, and it puts a clear coat over the foliage, makes it kind of glossy, makes it just shiny and new, and then it holds the moisture in. So the roots can keep up with the moisture loss. Plants perspire just like you and I do. So this kind of it's like lotion. It's like sunblock for plants. It's not sunblock, but it kind of locks the moisture in so it keeps them from, some people, we're noted as a place where our plants live. We have that bar that we live up to. Well, this is one of our secrets. Well, you can take this home and are ready to use and spritz some plants, especially things that are shade lovers. They're the ones that are really sensitive to our Arizona sun. You put a Japanese maple, begonias, patience, and in any amount of sun, hydrangeas. Oh, hydrangeas without this, not going to do well. So this just locks the
with the
moisture.
wind, because we
Yes.
have not only the sun, but we have the wind, which dries things out. So that just gives it that little layer of protection.
So just kind of an insider tip, cloud cover can up your game with things that are kind of hard to grow. Hanging baskets, that kind of stuff. I go through in the spring and I just make all my plants happy.
The other thing, if you're
Look at that, me or? Oh, that's gotta be you.
the octopus, if you're doing containers, this is probably, I think, one of the most important things you can use.
Yeah, this is soil polymers. You've played with those, we've been playing with those for decades. Soil polymers are those crystals that absorb water, like 200 times their weight in water. Sometimes in the courthouse, you'll see them make neckerchiefs that you soak in water that you kind of put around your neck to keep it cool. Well, I've been playing with these for 20 years or more in the gardens. But this, we've infused ours with mycorrhizal fungi, which are the living organisms that live in the soil that kind of tickle the feet where plants want to root. They go, oh, something's going on. I want to root here. And so every time I garden, every time we put a container, tree in the ground, whatever, we sprinkle a little bit of this in the hole, in the soil, that top layer, and so it seeds the soil with more mycorrhizal colonies. Plants will like that, and it'll swell up and hold water right there at the root level. So you get a product that encourages roots and then holds moisture. This is called Aqua Boost crystals, and it's like magic in a bottle. Yeah, it does actually work. I know it looks cheesy. It is in a mason jar. We did use a stick-on label from the printer. It's something, we have little elves in the back making the stuff. And this is like a season's worth. We've got little bottles too for most, but I buy the big one every year, and every time I garden, I put a little bit in.
Especially if you're doing hanging baskets of any
must.
kind, this would be essential.
Hot basket, full sun by the driveway kind of stuff, a must. Anyway, it'll actually, I think we're just getting close together or something. Say it again. Anyway, we divert. Rehydrating. This is a new product for us. Sometimes our soil will dry out and create almost a turtle shell effect. And so it dries where it gets so crusty, you'll water it, and the water literally beads up and runs off. It's hard to rehydrate the soil. This is important in strawberry patches, lawns, areas where you got large areas, raised beds. They just get hard and they start wicking the water away. This rehydrates. It's called Rehydrating. It's a hose-in sprayer. So you put your hose here, turn it on, and you just soak down this whole area of the garden. So if you're having a hard time keeping the soil moist, this is a product that we've got that really, really works to rehydrate the soil and keep it moist for large areas.
But yes.
I don't know what else did I bring.
Flower
Yeah, flower power is important. So, what will happen? We created a fertilizer. This is a competitor to Miracle-Gro.
Oh, you said the word.
There's several words you're never allowed to use in our garden center. Plum Dumpo, Labyrinth's Lowe's, and Miracle-Gro.
He's back on the soapbox again.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, this is going to go out on the internet in a minute too. They'll probably cease and desist. Yeah, up yours. Anyway, we don't like the box store. We are
Okay,
anti.
move on. Talk about your flower power.
Flower Power is a better fertilizer. What we were having is Mother's Day, everyone comes in and buys those big, glorious hanging baskets. Having people take those home, they're watering through June. By the end of June, the plants would be all green, no blossom. And so they had run out of food. So we created this food. It's Flower Power 54. It's 54% phosphorus, as high as we could go, and still keep the phosphorus liquefied, or it starts to solidify and sink at that point. But this, you're using this every other week or so. It's got a little scoop inside. We got that. It's sealed. I've got a little scoop inside that you just add to your watering can. Now, our daughter's getting married in November in Austin, Texas. All of her friends and family from here can't make it that far. We realize that. The most important ones will. We're trying to get the grandparents to go. So they're coming here next weekend. We're traveling through. We're going to have a party in our backyard for them. She's bringing her fiance. I think her parents are coming. No pressure. But the backyards, they got to be pretty glorious. I mean, they got to be over the top.
Yep.
And so I was out this morning fertilizing everything this week. So it's got time to bud up, take it up, and add more flowers for next week. So if you're using this every other week, your plants will have more flowers.
It makes a huge difference. I mean, I have people who are doubtful when they start. They're like, I'll try it. But my goodness, it makes a huge difference. Yes, ma'am.
You talk about adding this stuff. Do you mix it in or do you layer?
This,
Most of
Your
your
other
stuff you haven't
products.
talked
Oh,
about.
Mix it in or do you layer it?
most of the only one that you mix in of the products we just mentioned is the Aqua Boost.
Yeah,
This
you
is one you
said
want
that.
to be in the soil.
So when you're adding that, when your ex-Miracle-Gro.
This you mix up in a container and water in.
Yeah, a watering
It's a
can.
water
You're
cycle.
not taking
Put a water
tri-
can in.
Tri thing and layering.
Yeah, the biggest mistake you'll make with this, because it's a powder, you'll sprinkle some on the soil and water it in. Don't do that,
Okay.
because it's too
that-
concentrated.
All right.
The other interesting tidbit, just now we're into trivia, phosphorus, the middle number, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. Phosphorus actually lowers the pH as well of your water. So if you can lower, your water is very high in pH. For the folks that are new, you're always used to dealing with acidic water, acidic soil. And so They'll tell you to add lime to the soil.
Don't
Lime
do it.
sweetens the soil. Don't do that here. You'll kill your soil. Not the plant, you'll kill the soil. So this is serious. So whenever you see HGTV going, oh, you want to go sweeten the soil with lime, just go, oh, Ken said something. What was I supposed to do? I need to acidify. We're always trying to lower the pH of our soil because our water is very, very alkaline. And the soil takes on whatever your water is. It always equalizes to whatever the water pH is. That's what your soil's going to take on. So every time you water, the pH goes up. Well, this product also helps lower pH and increase blossoms. Way more trivia than we use.
So I always describe this as like the chocolate shake or the Coke. It's the zip, gets the plants going. But there's other products that I always call the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
So to me, this is the meat and potatoes. This is the heavy meal.
It's our Look, I'm doing that. That's me. I've got that magnetism.
So this is the meat and potatoes. This is it's gonna feed that plant for a long time. So this is a slow release food. So it's gonna feed for 3 months, 2-3 months.
In a container, maybe every 2 months
2
or so.
months. So it's that consistent food. Plant's always gonna pull from it. The flower power is that regular Coke. It's a chocolate shake. It's something that gives it a zip and gets it going. So, and you can use both. You probably need both in your containers and in your gardens.
No, this is a granular sprinkle on the ground. I like chemistry. Like in high school, I like the science. I like to kill things. I like to, weed killers. I like fertilizers. I like all that hard good stuff. And so this is something that we created probably 15 years ago. It's got a huge, huge following, but it's organic. This is not gonna, if you're on wells, this is serious. You're always thinking about tainting your wells, that kind of stuff. It's safe for your pets. It's just smart. It's slow. Organics release very slowly over a long period of time. So it's great for containers and blooming things. But the flower power is what's gonna get them to pop with all those blooms. So, main ingredient in this is cottonseed meal. Just more history. For you rosarians, cottonseed meal is what you put on your plant, on your roses before you enter the fair. Because cottonseed meal makes the fragrance come out and the color come out on the flowers. And it just makes things more acidic. So it's just great little, too much. I'll stop doing that.
Stop doing that.
So you go budworms?
Oh, budworms. They're out there.
Yeah.
Budworms are.
I should repost that video we have on budworms. Budworms are little tiny caterpillars, cute as can be, a little green thing. And it's a little moth, lays her eggs in the flowers of, let's say, your petunias, geraniums, that kind of stuff. And so you'll see all of a sudden the plant will stop blooming. All the flowers have been eaten off, or the flowers you see will have holes in them. That's that little worm. You'll never see the worm, you just see the damage. It's just a budworm. So the caterpillar eats your flowers. Devious little thing.
You will see, sometimes you'll see little black spots over the leaves and you're like, what are those? And that's the
Excrement.
worm poop.
Yeah, worm poop, that's
So
right.
you'll see that, and that's a good telltale sign
Yeah.
that you've got the budworm.
Very easy to kill. Use Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. Captain Jack's, I say. That's what'll kill them. Organic. I'm also an old actor. I like this. The bigger the audience, the more power. As an
You're a
actor,
ham.
my mother gave me a Mr. Microphone as a kid, and I've liked one ever since. Not really. Anyway, Captain Jack's is organic. It's safe for your pets. If you got that puppy or mischievous cat that gets in and digs around, it's not going to harm them. Not going to harm hummingbirds, which with flowers, you got to always worry about that. It's safe for them, but it wipes out caterpillars, including the tomato worms. That great big green worm that gets on your tomatoes wipes them right out. And so you can get that. Okay.
Have we covered everything?
I think we should cover the soils too. At least if you need more soil, or you're going to put more. So we like to make our own products. We're big into local. The national brands are actually not made for here. The national brands are made for where? Guess. Chicago, over to Boston, down to New York, down to DC. That's where humanity lives. And so they make products for where humanity lives. There's not enough of us gardeners that live here to make any difference. And I've tried to get them to change products or add sulfur to the fertilizer. They have no interest. So years ago, I started making our own products for here. So these are actually designed for our soil, our water, our dryness, ours. So we made this soil, my grower and I made this years and years ago, probably 20 years, 15, 20 years ago, a potting soil. Potting soil is where the science is in dirt. So it's a hard thing to get a soil that stays moist, yet drains enough to allow plants to root out, especially in a very dry climate. So we made this soil, and I test every other year or so against the national brands, just the big players, and this one always grows better, including the Happy Frog, the organic-y, the high end for potting soils. This one will outperform it. I mean, $30 potting soil, you'd think it would grow more, better, bigger, bolder. It doesn't. So your soil makes all the difference. Whatever you do, don't take dirt from your yard and put it into a pot, because what you're really making are bricks at that point. So they will bake and turn rock hard, and soil is your key to great containers and raised beds. Over here.
Do you need to hydrate
So his question is, do you need to hydrate it? So our potting soil, I kept it organic, so I did not add the wetting agents. Well, the wetting agents make it moisten better, but not organic. So I did not put the wetting agents. So you will need to hydrate this. At first, you need to really wet it down. I mean, really soak it. In fact, whenever you water your containers, really you should water until you see moisture coming out the weep holes in the bottom. Also, what you'll find is some of your clay pots perform better in the summer because the material actually holds some of the moisture and it keeps the plants cooler. So the roots will be cooler. So you'll find that your plastics tend to heat up and they tend to they almost stay too wet, they're too soggy, they don't breathe. Whereas clays breathe yet hold the moisture in to keep the roots cool. So I find that our clay pots do a little better. And we've got copper pots. I mean, I've got my grandmother's, believe it or not, I have my grandmother's old kettle, wash kettle, huge iron pot, weighs a ton, about this big. I drilled a hole in the bottom. It actually has the hook where it would go over the fire in the backyard to heat up. I've got that pot from my grandmother, and I garden in it. So I find it doesn't grow as well. I mean, it grows nice and pretty, but it's not as good at growing things as clay. This is personal experience. Wood does really, really well. I don't like wood because, yeah, the bottom drops out. I mean, the bottom will rot, you pick it up, and the whole thing drops out. It's not as long-lived, and they're not as pretty.
True. Can I say one more thing about the potting soil? I know a lot of people use Miracle Grow potting soil, and it is cheap, and I can't argue with you on that.
It's not that cheap.
But you're kind of getting what you pay for, because I think they have changed their formulation quite a bit to try to keep the cost down. Because what I'm finding, people come in and their potting soil it gets like white mold things growing on it. It really does not drain that well, and you really do need your potting soil to drain. It's important. Plants don't always want to be wet. So if you want a beautiful container, you want beautiful gardens, pay attention to your potting soil. I mean, that's what the roots are growing into. That's the base of what you're growing your plants in. So pick a good one. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's a good question. How often should you change your potting soil? Every year. Freshness. The living, breathing part of a garden is the soil. And that's also what the plants are using. So you'll actually see in raised beds, the soil actually disappeared. I don't know where it goes. It just starts, you'll just see it disappear. So what I do for small pots, we just replace all the soil. I'll dump that soil into a raised bed or something. I'll accessorize over there and I put fresh soil in the anything smaller than maybe 12, 14 inches, little things. And the roots will be all in there. I can't screen it enough. For the really big pots, if I'm replacing a lot of soil, I don't want to replace the whole thing. There I'll just take out the top layer. Or if I'm accessorizing, let's say we're going to add some flowers into our current summer garden containers, I'll try to be as aggressive as I can. I'll just dig out some soil and look for ways to add some freshness into that pot. So if you got perennials in big pots, there I just go
We
live.
usually add fresh soil, because kids right, that it
dress.
kind of disappears, so putting fresh soil in every year. And I would also say, if you're growing things like tomatoes or peppers in pots, it's very important to change your soil out,
Yeah.
because they're like harbingers of fungus.
Disease, you gotta rotate
you
your
wanna
peppers
freshen
and
the
squash, and potatoes, that kind of stuff, crop rotation, soil rotation. So with that, I think we're
soil. Maybe
close.
yak to nurse?
You got room, yes, you're 58 minutes in. We can probably take a couple more questions. Anyone in the back? Okay, yeah?
What do I use to kill the Russian sage that keeps trying to pop up on it?
How do you kill Russian sage? Was that the question?
With
So
dynamite?
really, the easiest is a shovel. They come out pretty easy. They aren't that deep rooted. They're shallow rooted and they tend to run like this.
Yeah.
So they'll pop out relatively easy. If you do want, I do maintain some of the suckers around my own Russian sage with Roundup. I can't, now you shouldn't really do that.
Did you
'cause
just
if
say
you-
Roundup?
I know. At least I didn't use Miracle-Gro, Morose and Miracle-Gro. Both
Actually,
over them.
we have that product called Burnout,
That's good.
which is an organic
Oh.
product that I think would work very well on those Russian sage.
Burnout is vinegar, but it's super concentrated. You can't get that, what kind of acid that is. From, there you go. You can't go to Costco and get that kind of acid strong enough. So Burnout came with a stronger, and they put a surfactant with it, so an absorber, an oil, so the plant actually absorbs it better, so you get a very quick knockdown, and it's a topical burn. So for Russian sage, you can burn off all those suckers, and it won't affect the mother plant. I find you can't kill Russian sage. It's just hard to kill. Yeah.
I'm new to the area, and my wife wanted a couple roses, and I was just, my house is fairly well landscaped, and I was concerned about digging a hole, so I put a couple rose plants in big containers.
Yeah.
What do I need to do for this?
Oh, so he wanted some more roses, but his landscape was pretty well mature.
Yeah.
So you put your roses in
And I'm a
containers.
coward.
And he didn't want to, he was afraid to dig a hole. He didn't want to dig a hole. Got it. We grow roses in pots. We got a knockout rose. We got carpet roses, several roses in pots. His question specifically was, what should I do for my perennials? It's just not just roses, especially roses. What do I do this winter? The secret with containers in the winter, if you're going to winter, let's say fig trees, or we've got peaches, all kinds of things in containers. They're right out there. We don't bring them in. If you can't figure out how to live out there through the winter, goodbye. I'll replant next spring. We own a garden center. That's our philosophy, and things winter over. Our secret is when that weatherman comes in January going, oh, it's going to be a cold one. A storm's coming in from the north. Before that storm gets here, make sure you hydrate the plants before the cold. This is counterintuitive. You'd think if you're hosing down your kids outside before a storm, they get too cold, but not with plants. Plants have naturally occurring antifreeze within the structure of the plant. So if you hydrate that, it keeps that antifreeze moving. If you don't do that, you'll see tip burn or top burn or winter kill. The tops of the plant will actually, it'll sacrifice the top of the plant going, I can't keep the whole thing done. I'll just keep the core and see if I can survive. The secret is watering through winter, especially before a real cold hits. If you do that, they'll come through fine. So they'll start leafing out in January, February, just like everything else. Mine are in full bloom right now. I'm fighting spider mites right now. Anyone else have spider mites? Webbing on my junipers, the roses, they're getting on the tomatoes. They're starting to drive me crazy. They're gonna die.
Captain
So.
Jack's did that.
Captain Jack, yeah, this is what you use on spider mites, Captain Jack. It's all natural, wipes them out. With that, we've got an hour. Thank you very much. Next week, something to put on your radar. Dr. O'Sullivan's coming in 2 weeks. This is interesting. July 9th. Is that right, Ken? July 9th? So it'll be a Saturday. She's a veterinarian. She's got Purdue credentials. I mean, she's way up there. But she also does alternate or Asian, naturopathic. She does acupuncture for dogs.
She's actually
She's into everything. She's brilliant. She's coming to teach a class here, that class, on pets in the garden, how to keep them safe. Heat stroke, garden, plants, all that
Ate
kind
the
of
weird
stuff.
mushroom. things like
Yeah,
that.
our dogs do like to eat the garden mushrooms. They'll be walking around like this, going, give me more. She's going over all of that, so.
She's a crazy good speaker. You
Yeah.
will get more information in an hour than you know what to do with.
Come
So,
early on that
I
one,
encourage
bring an
you.
extra chair. Because it's gonna be, I think it'll be packed. We'll see, but that should be really interesting. Next week is on
Pollinator?
pollinators, bees, butterflies, all the hummingbirds, the plants unique to bringing in, and we're really good at that. We like it.
We do.
Anyway, thank you all. You can clap for Lisa.